Allahu Akbar. We gotta pause this here. Look at this man, a scientist and a professor of embryology, a professor of anatomy, somebody who's written textbooks in the field, who was raised Christian, became atheist. What does he say? Professor of embryology? But I am going to introduce you here to a video by Dr. Keith L. Moore. And this is a very important person. Why? Because unlike this guy trying to refute the Quran, who's definitely not a professor of embryology, this man was the professor of anatomy, Department of Surgery, the chair and head of anatomy in 1974 to 1984, the associate dean for basic medical sciences in the Faculty of Medicine in the University of Toronto, born in the UK, raised as a Christian, became an atheist, going through developing science until he found these Quranic verses and became a Muslim because of the miracle of the Quran and how it explains it. A world-class expert in embryology who's written textbooks that are taught in universities. Now, he would know a lot more than him or me. What does he say about it?
As far as it is known from the history of embryology, little was known about the staging and classification of human embryos until the 20th century. For this reason, the descriptions of the human embryo in the Quran cannot be based on scientific knowledge in the 7th century. The only reasonable conclusion is that these descriptions were revealed to Muhammad from God. He could not have known such details because he was an illiterate man with absolutely no scientific training.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. We gotta pause this here. Look at this man, a scientist and a professor of embryology, a professor of anatomy, somebody who's written textbooks in the field, who was raised Christian, became atheist. What does he say? He says there is no way a man named Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the desert, 6th century Arabia, could have known this. The only logical conclusion is that this was from Allah. Allahu Akbar. This Christian apologist, in trying to attack the Quran, has brought forth something that is a clear evidence to show the divinity of the Quran. Allahu Akbar.
The first stage is adaf, and you'll have to apologize for my pronunciation. This is from Surah Tariq 6. He is created from a drop emitted. This Arabic term refers to the forceful emission of fluids which occurs during ejaculation in the male and ovulation in the female. The male secretions, called semen, contain the spermatozoa, and the female secretions, called follicular fluid, contain the ovum. This is the stage of fertilization and the nutfa, and this is what we call the zygote, referred to in the Quran as the nutfa, and the nutfa undergoes division, which we call cleavage, as it passes down the uterine tube. So these are the stages of the nutfa here as it undergoes cell division. This term is used several times in the Quran when referring to the beginning of development. After examining all these references, it is concluded that nutfa refers to the small drop of fluid containing the sperm and the ovum. The term nutfa is also used to refer to the dividing zygote as it undergoes cleavage, cell division, and passes along the uterine tube to enter the uterus. This surah says, "Then he made his progeny from a quintessence of the nature of fluid despised." Sulala is an Arabic term, refers to the gentle extraction of the germ or sex cells from the millions that are produced. There are 300 to 500 million sperms in the ejaculate of a healthy young male. Only one of these is extracted from the semen to fertilize the ovum. This shows a photograph of the millions of sperm when they are ejaculated, and only one of these several million sperms is drawn out, which is what is suggested by the word sulala. Now, the same in the case of the ovary. only one ovum reaches maturity and is expelled from the ovary, and it is extracted from the many thousands that are available in the ovary. Again, the idea of extraction or sulala. The next stage is Amshaj, Surah Ad-Der 2. Verily, we created man from a mixture of a germinal drop. Amshaj, then, as an Arabic term, is used in the Quran to describe the mixing of the sperms and the ovum. During fertilization, the ovum rotates within the fluid containing the sperms until one of them is successful in penetrating its covering layers, which we call the corona radiata and the zona pellucida, which is this layer here. Yeah, I'll read it again in English. It's Surah Abasa 19. He created a new individual from Nutfa and immediately planned and programmed him. That was the first one we had. Oh, there it is. So al-Khalq then is an Arabic term which means coming into being, and is used when referring to the fertilized ovum or zygote. Here you can see the nuclei from the sperm and the ovum uniting to form a new cell, which is the zygote or nutfa, and then here's the zygote or nutfa again. It's just getting ready to divide into two cells, which we call the dividing zygote or the dividing nutfa. The next stage, al-Takdir, which is the same verse that was just repeated. This Arabic term means the determination of characters and appears to refer to the fact that from the beginning, the zygote or nutfa contains genetic factors in the chromosome, contain the genes, which determine the color of the future person's eyes, hair, and skin, and all its other characteristics, such as the appearance of the face and the body. Al-Harth, Surah Al-Bagara, Ayah 223, your wives are as a tilth unto you. This Arabic term refers to the plowing of the earth and the sowing of the seed in it. This term is used in reference to sexual intercourse, plowing, and implantation of the blastocyst, sowing of the seed. This analogy is a very good one, since the blastocyst develops root-like structures called chorionic villi, which derive oxygen and nutrients from the mother's blood, just as the roots of the plant, shown here, derive their nutrients from the soil. Next is alaka. Let's have the next slide. Alaka is Surah Al-Mu'minun, Ayah 14. Then we created the drop into a leech-like structure. Then of that leech-like structure, we made a chewed-like substance. Alaka refers to a leech-like appearance, especially at about 22 days, as shown in this slide. This is a leech, and this is the human embryo, about 23 days. I think you have to agree that the similarity between these structures is amazing, and that it is truly, the human embryo is truly leech-like. The leech-like embryo is attached to the chorionic sac, which is embedded in the maternal blood and attached to the maternal endometrium, or the lining of the uterus. This is the Mudga stage, Surah Al-Mu'minun, Ayah 1 to 14, and I repeated that before. Then we created the drop into a leech-like structure. Then of that leech-like structure, we made a chewed-like substance, which you can see here, and begins during the 6th week.
Allahu Akbar.
Next stage is Al-Kissa Bil-Lan, Surah Al-Mu'minun, Ayah 14. Then we close the bones with flesh. So in the previous stage, then we had the bones, and then we covered the bones with flesh. So this Arabic term means a clothing with flesh, and after the bones form, they become surrounded or clothed by flesh or muscles, which acquire attachments to them. These muscle attachments permit movements of the skeleton to occur. Now this is the final stage of development called al-Nasha, Then we developed of him another creation. Anasha means growth or coming into being. This undoubtedly refers to the fetal period when there is growth and differentiation of the embryo that developed in the embryonic period. The rate of body growth during the fetal period is remarkable, especially between the 9th and 16th weeks.
Allahu Akbar. See, this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows the truth upon the tongue of the wicked. You were trying to use this as a way to criticize the Quran, but everybody watching can see that this is in actuality a miracle of the Quran.